Good afternoon, pre-K and kinder students. Before I get started talking about size, let me just remind you about the term matter. Matter means that it's anything that can take up space. And of course, those properties that Mr. Broughton discussed with you or that he told you about, those are things that actually it's about how an object looks, feels, or acts. Now, I'm going to be working with you with the word size. Usually when we talk about size, that's talking about big things, little things, comparing sizes. So two very important words that I'm going to be working with you on, that's bigger and smaller, larger and smaller. So let me not delay any longer and let me tell you about how I'm going to do that. I'm going to use some of my animal friends to help us kind of understand that about size. The first animal friend that I'm going to get out today is a Psychotic Tortoise. Now, a Psychotic Tortoise is probably one of the largest species of tortoises in the world today. They're not normally found in America. They originated from the continent of Africa. And the way that we got ours is that a family found this tortoise in their backyard. Evidently, he was the pet of some other family, and he escaped. They couldn't find the owner, so they had to find a home for him. They had other pets, and I guess they had too many pets to keep him because he's a pretty good pet. I guess the problem was they were having problems keeping him fed because Psychotic tortoises, they eat a lot. I'm going to get him out and let's talk about his size. This is Michelangelo, Psychotic tortoise. Now, in Africa, they also have another common name for these tortoises. They're often referred to as the African spurred tortoise. And if you look at his legs, you can see that he has spurs covering his legs, okay? Now, they can live to be over 100 years old. By the time they reach that point, they're going to weigh well over 100 pounds. Now, their life expectancy or their lifespan kind of makes them a hard pet to keep. But you know what? If you keep them healthy and you keep them happy, they make excellent companions. Now, he's really curious. He's looking around, isn't he? That's a Cicada tortoise. Very large in a sense, right? Okay. I'm going to put him back and I'm going to get another one of my little friends and we're going to talk about that little friend's size as compared to Michelangelo. This is my other little friend. This is a three-toed box turtle. Now, the three-toed box turtle, guess what? It has a long lifespan also. Can live to be 100 years old too. That's funny about turtles and tortoises. They can live a very long time. Now, Michelangelo, I'm thinking he's probably 30 pounds, and he's probably about 20 years old. This turtle right here is about maybe 15 years old. And this turtle came from our preserve some years ago. We do have them in the preserve. When I first started teaching out here, I used to see a lot of these little guys crawling around. Today, if we were on the trail, most likely we wouldn't see one. I'm not seeing as many as we used to, and I've got a suspicion that what is happening to them is that we have a lot of visitors that visit our Post Oak Preserve and they walk our trails getting exercise or maybe walking their dogs or even going back to the lake to fish. And I've got a feeling that when they see these turtles, they've been picking them up and taking them home for pets. And that's a no-no. You don't want to take anything from the wild to make a pet out of it. And besides, if you really want a box turtle, you can go to the local pet store and I bet you can find one there rather than taking one out of nature, its natural habitat. There's one thing about this species of turtle. First, I want to tell you that probably the name comes from if this little turtle was to become afraid, it could close itself up completely inside the shell. The front part of it will hinge shut. That means the head, the legs, even the little stubby tail in the back, all of that can go inside the shell once it's closed. That gives it excellent protection. In fact, when I found this one, there were scars on the side right here where maybe some predator had tried to consume this turtle. One more thing about this turtle. It's one of the few species of turtles that you can simply look at the eyes and you will be able to tell whether it's a girl or a boy. Looking at this turtle's eyes, I see the black dot, which is the pupil, and then I see a ring around that black dot, which is the first ring, and it's kind of a goldish brown, and that tells me, guess what? This is a girl. In fact, I knew it was a girl anyhow because I've given it a name. I've had this turtle for years. Her name is Teresa. Teresa the turtle, okay? A three-toed box turtle. A box, she can close herself completely in, and the two back feet have 3 toes on each foot. That's Teresa. Michelangelo's a lot bigger than Teresa, right? So he's larger, she's smaller. But guess what? I've got another little friend that I'm going to introduce you to. This is Tiny. Small, isn't she? Well, guess what? She's a three-toed box turtle also. And you heard me use the word she. Simply, if we look at her eyes, guess what? The black pupil. And around that pupil is a ring, and that ring is a goldish or brownish color. So it is a girl. And if we examine the feet, she's got three toes on each one of her feet, okay, at the back. So Teresa is larger than Tiny. Tiny is smaller than Teresa. Teresa is smaller than Michelangelo. You know, walking around your house or walking around your yard, or even if we were able to take you on the nature trails today, you would probably notice things that are gigantic and large and small, and, you know, you would know the difference. But there are some things that when you are comparing them, they're so close in size, you can't make a decision on whether that was bigger or that one's smaller. So what you have to do, you have to use a tool, a scientific tool, to figure that out, right? The most common would probably be a ruler, which is marked off in inches and centimeters, or maybe even a measuring tape. But we're not going to use either one of those today. We're going to use a ribbon. And this is something that you might find around the house that you could use if you didn't have a ruler or a measuring tape. And the way we're going to do this, I'm going to get Michelangelo out, if he will be still. And we're going to measure his shell. We're going to take one end of the ribbon and place it at the very front of his shell, if I can get it to stay. Right there. And then I'm going to take the other end and go to the end of his shell. And I'm going to make a mark, not on his shell, but on the ribbon where the end of his shell comes to, right there, okay? Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put him back in. And since I've made the mark there, you know, it's awful easy to forget something when you have measured it. So you know what? We're going to do what some scientists do. When they collect data, they record it. Now, if you're doing this at home, you wouldn't have a whiteboard maybe, but maybe you'd have a sheet of paper that you could record it on so you wouldn't forget it. But I'm going to record it up on this whiteboard so everybody can see it. I'm going to use different colors to represent each turtle. This is Michelangelo's color, which is black. So I'm going up here, and I'm going to make that mark there. This is Michelangelo's start mark, and this is Michelangelo's the end of the shell. Now, I'm going to shade that out, so everybody can see that. as we make our comparisons. That's how long his tail is, okay? Michelle. Okay. Now I'm going to get Teresa out. We're going to do the same thing with Teresa. Teresa's there. We're going to take the ribbon. We're going to put it at the front end of her. She's trying to get away. I don't blame you, little girl. We're going to put it right there. And I'm going to make a mark right at the end, right there. Okay, going to put her back. And I'm going to use a different color for her. I think I'll use red for her. So there's the beginning. There's the end mark, the end of her shell, and I'm going to shade that out. Right there. Oh, now we're going to get Tiny out. Okay, Tiny, let's get a measurement of your shell using the ribbon. Okay, at the very beginning of her shell, and then at the very end. You guys see that, how I'm doing that? And I'm going to mark it, not on her shell. You don't want to write on her shell, but on that ribbon right there. Okay? Then I'm going to put her back. And I'm going to use blue for her. Start right there. Right there. Okay. Tiny is smaller than Teresa. Teresa is smaller than Michelangelo. Michelangelo is larger than Teresa, and Teresa is larger than Tiny. So there we have it.